The whole MMA universe is still anticipating what we would consider the greatest rematch yet between Conor McGregor and the Russian Khabib. Their last fight ended in a post-match brawl that involved both camps and spilled into the stands, leading to both fighters being fined. Could we witness a rematch soon? Let's find out. First off, what went on the first time these two fought? It's the fight that all UFC fans had been looking forward to in recent months, and as expected has been hyped to the max by the UFC's deep-pocketed media department, especially when the dawn of hype Conor McGregor on the lineup as the main event. Unfortunately for Conor McGregor, the pre-fight antics of the bus attack and usual verbal onslaught at the numerous press conferences simply didn't have the desired effect on the cool-headed Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov. No one will argue that the Irishman is unmatched in stirring up emotions in his opponents, and that psychological warfare is a major part of the fast-talking Dublin fighter's weapons, and one reason that he's so popular. But the self-proclaimed king of the UFC lightweight divisions came up against a very different breed of opponent. The fighter from Dagestan simply wasn't fazed by these antics. He was simply biding his time to fight night to let his skills do the talking in the UFC octagon, and Khabib didn't disappoint. 2 years out of the MMA didn't do Conor McGregor any favors, and he looked uncomfortable from the moment the bell sounded for round 1. McGregor did well defending Khabib's attempts to get him on the floor in the first minute, and then the Russian started showing off his grappling skills, completely overpowering his opponent. McGregor simply didn't have an answer to Khabib's fine-tuned ground combat skills, being dominated and made to eat not only canvas, but a serious barrage of punches and elbows. At the start of the 4th championship round, it looked as though the fight was starting to turn in favor of McGregor's standing fighting style. However, Khabib took the ground the canvas with his grappling skills, taking the full mount position, grounding and pounding his opponent, until he moved into a rear naked choke, forcing McGregor to tap out and concede to his more powerful Russian opponent, proving to the UFC that he is the undisputed lightweight champion. Even with Khabib clearly taking the victory, he didn't lift the belt then. Why? Unfortunately, UFC 229 may be remembered for all the wrong reasons, as a brawl broke out in the crowd with Khabib jumping into the audience to confront the McGregor training camp, causing all types of chaos, which also spilled over into the ring with McGregor getting hit by one of Khabib's camp. All the commotion resulted in an undisputed lightweight champion not being allowed to raise his belt at the end of the match, which is a shame as it was well deserved. Khabib has 2 UFC records to his name, and with a spotless fight record of 27-0, as well as an 8-fight winning streak, more than justifying his position at the top of the MMA. Whether we will see a rematch between the two fighters is anyone's guess, but given the open hatred shown between the two fighters and UFC fans undoubtedly wanting to see if McGregor can make a comeback, I'm sure Dana White will try to get something arranged, as it will be another money earner for all those involved. Well, Khabib explains how McGregor was at fault for post-fight brawl at UFC 229. After getting the tap from McGregor, Nurmagomedov briefly celebrated. He then launched himself out of the cage to start a brawl with McGregor's coaches. That brawl spilled into the cage, with McGregor tangling with Nurmagomedov's corner. Fines and sanctions were handed down and both parties went their separate ways. Though there has been plenty of taunts over social media between the pair, we've not seen them come face to face since. Nurmagomedov, who retired from MMA competition in 2020, was recently on the Full Send podcast. There, he spoke about that infamous night in Vegas. He also failed to take any responsibility for what went down. According to the Dagestani, the post-fight fracas was because he hadn't had his fill of combat within the sanctioned contest. I remember someone from his corner saying something, and it was a crazy emotional moment for me. I'm like, okay, this party's not finished. I'm not gonna say I'm proud of something like this. Maybe at the age right now of 33 and a half, maybe I'm not gonna jump right now. But at that time I did, the Eagle commented. Nurmagomedov defended the UFC lightweight title that night against McGregor. He held that belt for the next 2 years before vacating it after a successful defense versus Justin Gaethje. Since retiring, Nurmagomedov has seemed content to coach/corner his friends and family in both the UFC and Bellator, and work on his own promotion, Eagle FC. With that said, UFC's Dana White White says we could absolutely see Conor McGregor vs. Khabib rematch fight. UFC president Dana White is leaving the door wide open for a second fight between Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Appearing on ESPN's SportsCenter, H/T MMA Fighting's Damon Martin, White exclaimed he can absolutely see a scenario in which the two lightweight rivals square off against. Conor wants that fight. Conor wants the rematch with Khabib, he said. The first order of business for Nurmagomedov will be challenging Dustin Poirier in a lightweight title unification match at UFC 242 on September 7. It's not a surprise. White would keep things open for a second bout between Nurmagomedov and McGregor. Their first fight at UFC 229 last October set a mixed martial arts record with 2.4 million pay-per-view buys and had the second highest live gate in UFC history, $17.2 million. McGregor announced in March on Twitter that he decided to retire from the sport formerly known as mixed martial art. It's not the first time he's made this claim, so it seems difficult to take it seriously since he's only 30 years old and is an expert negotiator in search of the largest possible deal. In their first go-around, Nurmagomedov dominated McGregor through 4 rounds before finally getting the Notorious to submit. Well, with everything hitting at a rematch, rumors started emerging that Khabib Nurmagomedov can sabotage Conor McGregor's shot at Charles Oliveira. Conor McGregor can walk back into the UFC and fight for the lightweight title if he decides that's the belt he wants, and there's very little other 155-pound contenders can do about it. That's just the reality of the situation, given the amount of pay-per-views and attention the Irish sports star generates. According to Kale Sonnen, if Islam Makhachev wants a chance to hold his place near the front of the lightweight line, he'll need the help of his friend and teammate Khabib Nurmagomedov. Sonnen laid out a scheme to sabotage a potential Conor McGregor title shot by dangling the return of the Eagle in front of the UFC and Charles Oliveira. Interestingly enough, Dana White wants to see Conor McGregor in a rematch with Khabib Nurmagomedov after winning return to UFC. But Russian's dad wanted $100 million for his son if he faces Irishman in Octagon again. UFC president Dana White admitted that he wants to see Conor McGregor take on Khabib Nurmagomedov next in a highly anticipated lightweight title rematch. The Irishman made an explosive return to the Octagon against Donald Cerrone, brutally dismantling his opponent after just 40 seconds at UFC 246. The bout took place in the welterweight division, but White is hoping McGregor will once again attempt to dethrone Khabib after losing to the Russian in their first meeting in October 2018. The returning Notorious was found in devastating form from the very first bell in Las Vegas and sealed an early finish against Cerrone. McGregor had shattered the 51-fight veteran's nose with his first punch of the bout, and soon set about landing a precise head kick that connected square on the American's jaw. The former two-weight champion pummeled his way to victory with a flurry of blows and soon appeared to call out rivals Jorge Masvidal and Kamaru Usman. But despite a host of opportunities opening up for McGregor at both 170 pounds and 155 pounds, White is eager for the 31-year-old to renew his feud with Khabib, and after it became clear that McGregor would be interested in a bout with the Dagestani fighter in the Russian's homeland, Nurmagomedov's father and trainer named the amount his team would need to receive to consider a rematch. He said, "We also need revenge against Conor, but give us $100 million." Despite Khabib appearing reluctant to face McGregor again, having demanded that the Irishman win 10 consecutive fights first, both stars would be in line for a substantial paycheck. Finally, Dana wants Conor McGregor vs. Khabib rematch so bad. UFC president Dana White has been told to haul Khabib Nurmagomedov out of retirement to face Charles Oliveira for the lightweight title. Nurmagomedov retired from fighting after defending his 155-pound belt for the last time against Justin Gaethje in 2020. The Russian promised his mother that he wouldn't fight again after his father and longtime trainer Abdullah Maneb passed away after complications with COVID-19. Despite White's best efforts to convince Nurmagomedov to fight on and set up a rematch with Conor McGregor, the Russian called it quits and vacated his lightweight title last March. Oliveira went on to become champion by knocking out Michael Chandler at UFC 262. UFC newcomer Nathan Levy has now told White he should order Nurmagomedov back to fight Oliveira, telling Freak MMA, "If I was a matchmaker, I'd make Khabib come back from retirement to fight Charles." However, Dana's main match for Khabib has to be against Conor. No other matchups are to be considered for Khabib. Unfortunately unfortunately, that's all the time we had for today. Till next time, guys, cheers.